I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713 to the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and honest, find a rider. I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side,
Hello. How is it going? What happened to Richie? Where did Richie go?
He's coming back.
Oh God! Yes, I see. Richie disappeared. My internet decided to die as the show started, but it'll pick up. I'm hoping. Welcome to this show and for us to bring you some positivity, because maybe people could do with some. Not an awful lot of negativity around. Pete, we'll come to you. There's something different about you, Pete. I can't quite put my finger up. There's something different about you.
I'm outside St James's Park.
That's it. You must be the Sandman, are you? Yeah.
I wish. Chris was lucky enough to be there last week. Hopefully soon. We'll see.
Nice one. Chris, how are you partying all yesterday before the match?
No, I'm all good, mate. Yeah, I was. I wouldn't. Well, it depends how you define partying. I was at a 90th party. But no, all good, mate. All good. Nice weekends. Can't believe I'm back in work tomorrow. So a little bit gutted, but all good.
All good. I'll go. Yeah, you had a break, Chris. I think that Richie has joined Pete in the Sandman outside James Park.
Yeah.
Feel free, Chris, if you'd like to try that as well, because it gave me a good laugh. Give me a good laugh when you did try that.
I knew you were going to say
that. I'm sure the viewers would like that of it as well.
Richie, yeah, absolutely would.
I literally just got Pete's message to meet him outside the Sandman, so I just quickly scuttled across there, and we're gonna have a pint after this.
Nice one. I might join you there in a few minutes as well. Hey, you took a wrong turn, Chris. There he is. There's the zebra. Yes, there'll be a lot of this messing going on because we don't really want to talk about the match, but we're going to have to anyway. We're going to have to. I'm rocking this jersey as well. Oh, there we go.
Oh, lovely.
I won't say an awful lot about it because I don't want to no spoilers. But yeah. Yes, I got to see episode 3 and 4. Yeah. Let's get into the game. So this is the lineup, and I suppose the one change, the starting lineup was the same. The one change in the bench is Livramento was in, and Murphy was out. But Murphy had a good reason. This is his reason. His wife was having a baby. So congratulations, Jacob Murphy and his partner, and welcome baby Roman. And it's great to see that everyone is doing great. And I know he's watching the game as well. There's another picture of him showing him watching the game and shouting the lads on. But Pete, what did you make of the lineup?
I think it's as we expected, if I'm honest. Talked about it on the shows last week and on away days. I think we expected after a 5-1 win that we were not going to change the team. So yeah, as you just mentioned, I think the only real surprise is Jacob Murphy wasn't in the squad, but we now know why. But yeah, as we expected, and I would have been surprised if we'd have changed it, if I'm honest.
Cool. Chris, your thoughts on it?
Exactly the same as Pete. I felt we couldn't change it. I think it would have been odd if he had changed it, unless he was forced to, of course. So no surprises at all for me. I was happy with the lineup.
Cool. And nice to see that we're all now ready to go and have a pint of strawberry or shares. We're just waiting. This coordination. Richie, what did you make of the lineup?
Just did off what the lads just said. You can't really fault the team from last week, so you'd be hard but done to if you were left out of that starting lineup. So it pretty much picked itself, didn't it? Really, so wasn't expecting any changes.
Cool, Chris. How's the head there from the backyard? It's not doing the same thing it did the last time.
It's holding up well, isn't it?
You looked all fuzzy. You looked like what did I say? You looked like Bigfoot, all fuzzy like Bigfoot the last time. You tried it out.
No wonder you wanted that on. No wonder.
I needed a laugh. Right, and this was the City team. Of course, they had a few missing. We know who was missing, and we know that their bench that they didn't even go to. But look, let's get into the match. And I'm going to be very, very quick
Just really quickly. Pep was up to his old tricks again, and to be fair, I think LB might have mentioned it when we had him on. Is that there was talk that Diaz was out. He said he was out.
Yeah.
So he was clearly up to his old tricks, like that. He's playing those little mind games to get everyone excited on the Newcastle end. They got all these players out, and all of a sudden, one of his main big players is back in, and it did make a difference. To be fair.
Exactly. No, he was. Yeah, I was surprised to see him starting. All right. Very quickly, this is not a blow-by-blow account. It's just the first half. I'm going to give you first, lads, and then we comment on the first half. So, first minute, Shar down with an injury. I thought, that bodes well for us. They usually get a result then. But now Shar, but he was able to continue his shoulder injury, able to continue. Walker's pace was causing us problem on the right. And then everything was pretty tight up until about the 30th minute. The Alvarez goal, great pass from Foden, who had an absolutely immense game at Foden. Pope got a fingertips to it, but a goal for Alvarez. Actually, no one wants to see it, but here's a picture of it anyway. Of that goal celebration. But Man City were dominating possession really, and Foden was the main difference maker in the first half and the second half. But what do you make of the first half, lads? Pete, I'll go to you first. Does anyone you want to what do you make of the first half? Anyone you want to pinpoint the goal on, or anything in general from the first half you want to highlight?
I thought there was a clear game plan in my eyes for Newcastle United in the first half. I think the game plan was to keep things tight, to keep things compact, to make it difficult for Man City, and eventually kind of ease our way into the game. And to be fair, it's exactly what we did. If I'm honest, and I don't know what you boys think, I just think the goal kind of really kind of caught us off guard, really. They didn't have any real clear-cut chances, in my opinion. I think Akanji early on, we had one that was well over the bar with his left foot.
Yeah.
A couple of balls into the box that were well cleared, but nothing really clear-cut. And I think the game plan up until that point was going well. People were expecting us to be out, all guns blazing, full-on possession. You can't do that with Man City. You've got to play a certain way and ease your way in. And up to that point, it was working. And I thought, you know what? You could see what the game plan was. You could see what Eddie Howe was trying to do. And I was watching it thinking, actually, you know what? It's going really well. And then just a small lapse of concentration for me. If you look back at the goal, Burns out of position, which then pulls over Botman, which then creates the gap for Alvarez to hit the ball into the far corner. Great goal. Nothing. Well, I say great goal. Others may have a different opinion on that, but I let them have that conversation. It was a great strike into the far corner, and it just opened up the game after that. And the game plan wasn't quite out the window, but there's a huge crack in it, and you have to then change your focus.
Yeah. Rather than give you a different question, Chris, I'm going to ask you the same question. Any thoughts you want to reflect on from the first half?
Yeah, so I agree with Pete when he says about the game plan. We clearly did have a game plan. We didn't want to go too gung-ho. I would have liked us to have been a bit more braver, I'm not going to lie. I thought we were a little bit I think one of I think the person who was asking Bruno questions in the post match was saying, "Did you give them too much respect?" And part of me did feel a little bit that way because I just thought I wish we'd just stretched them that little bit more, took a couple more gambles. Hey, it might have backfired. We might have ended up 2 or 3-0 down, and then in which case I probably would have felt completely differently about it. I just thought we were a little bit slow off the mark yesterday. I mean, as the game went on, I thought, right, we're going to ease in, we're going to improve, and then obviously we got hit by, the sucker punch. And for me, I was disappointed with the goal because I genuinely I thought Nick Pope could have done better with it, if I'm being honest. Pete's right when he says, Bairn was slightly out of position, that then pulled Botman over. And I say this quite often, and I believe, when players are hitting the ball from that distance and where they are, I kind of want my midfield to be helping out a little bit more. When it's a player that's broke from the midfield, I'm wondering, where's Joe Linton or where's Bruno? Because Alvarez had a fair bit of time. Yes, fantastic bit of skill from Foden. It was absolutely brilliant, by the way. But I don't know. I think if he'd been approached a bit more quicker, then perhaps he wouldn't have had time to really, get his shot off. And as I say, when I watched it back, I've watched it back like 5 or 6 times now. I keep thinking Pope maybe should have done better. Somebody said to me actually on Twitter, I think it was, that Pope, and I didn't notice this, but apparently Pope, he stepped one way to his left, which then made it more difficult for him to spring to try and put a stop to the Alvarez strike. Yes, it was a good strike. I don't actually think he hit it that cleanly. And the fact that Pope got fingers to it, but it just slipped through. I was a bit disappointed. But yeah, first half, I don't think we were horrendous. I just don't think we were quite at it. And I would have liked to have seen us been a bit more braver. That's all I'd say.
Richie, are you throwing Nick Pope under the bus like Chris? And I'm joking there. For the goal, and what was your general thoughts in the first half?
I've got to agree with the lad. I think we were probably a bit overcautious. Pete was saying about that. Yes, I agree. You can be compact and stuff like that and be hard to break down, but we were just overcautious. It felt a bit like, I don't know, a bit like how we did it. And I know it isn't the Steve Bruce era where it was like get everyone behind the ball, but there's a couple of times where it just felt where that identity that Eddie Howe's got with this team wasn't there. Full stop. It just felt as though you were watching a different Newcastle, and obviously when we get to the second half, you saw that come back in the second half. We were a lot better in the second half. But yeah, I agree. I thought we were just overly cautious. Regards to the goal, I don't know, but it's a difficult one because he gets his hand to it. So I don't know if should his hand be a bit stronger, perhaps. That's possibly the only thing I could potentially say to it, because obviously he did get a decent touch on it. So yeah, possibly he could have done better on that. So, but to be fair, if you look at Nick Pope's performance for the whole game, he didn't really have much to do. There's no out and out clear saves he really had to make. There's a couple with his feet and stuff like that, but you'd expect those to be saved. But so I don't know. It could be one of those where he'd been standing for a while and wasn't particularly right on his toes, because obviously we know as a goalkeeper you've got to be aware constantly, even if the ball's at the other end of the pitch. The concentration level is going to be like 110%. So potentially it's something like that. I don't know, where he's just hasn't been literally on his toes potentially as what he should have been, and he hasn't been able to get his hand to it properly. But it's one of those, to lose 1-0 at Man City. I don't know. I think I'd rather lose 1-0 at Man City than 4-0 at Aston Villa.
Yep.
Richie, can I just ask you a question on behalf of Jules?
Yeah, I could see.
Is there someone behind you? Because it looks like there's someone standing behind you.
I know.
That's the ghost. Could be the ghost.
It's
the bathroom ghosts above it. I told you lads about this off earlier the week, didn't I? So they'll probably just come down from turning the shower off and just keep makeup for the night.
Oh, don't say that. I was shit scared. I didn't even live there.
You're not going to tell me about this. I haven't.
Yeah, you missed that. It's a show in itself. This one.
Can I just add with regards to Nick Pope, because I think it's a really good point. Like, I saw you mention it, Chris, at the time, and I didn't see it. If I'm honest, I didn't see it. but it's having watched it again. I think whoever made the point to is right. He kind of like takes a step to the left, and if you look, the biggest angle is on his left-hand side. So I think he anticipates him to shoot that side, which is why he steps to get ahead of it, and then he kind of has to come back. But then I also agree with Rich, like, could his hand have been stronger? Because if you look at where he gets his hand, there's enough of his fingers there.
It was about there, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was about there.
There is enough of it to get something strong on it. And I don't know whether, and this is me kind of sticking up for Pope a little bit here, like, does he anticipate that it's going wide so he doesn't feel like he needs to get enough on it just to kind of tip it around the post and maybe just gets his kind of bearings wrong? I don't know. I may be looking into that way too much, but I think they're two really good points that both of you have made. And it's just harsh because, like you said, you have nothing to do. Like, if you're going to the Etihad and you're a goalkeeper and you have all of that to deal with over 90 minutes, if someone tells you that before the game, you're going, I'm happy about that. You know, not knowing the score, but someone telling you that's how busy you're going to be. I'd take that all day as a goalkeeper. So it kind of makes me feel a little bit more down. Not gonna lie. I don't know.
That's not what we're here for, Pete. We're here to cheer people up on a Sunday evening, not make them worse. Right, let's move on. We'll go to the second half, and I'm going to go in the reverse order this time. So I'll go to you first, Richie. But just to recap on the second half, of course, Gordon had picked up a yellow card in the first half, and he looked like he might get sent off at one stage as well. But so yeah, it was more positive though for Newcastle in the second half. Those had some half kind of chances. Barnes then come on for Gordon because he was looking like he was getting sent off, and then Barnes proceeded to get a yellow card a minute after him coming on, so it kind of nullified that. Then Longstaff come on for J7, who went off with an injury. We don't know well, I haven't heard the latest on that since. Colin Wilson come on for Isaac. Anderson come on for Denali on the 65th minute. There's a bit more space for Newcastle. Has some more chances. And then Tino Livramento come on for Miggy. I know that was one that you had highlighted, Pete, that's something that Eddie might do on that right hand side. But yeah, it still didn't have any major effect. And the final score was 1-0 Newcastle. But going through that second half, Richie, Anton, that caught your eye in that one.
I think the things that mainly stood out for me, not just in the second half of the game, was obviously the final score there. You had Botman and Haaland. Botman was outstanding against Haaland. He had him in his back pocket for the whole game. It just goes to show why he's one of the best Premier League defenders at the moment. All the chances that he got were half chances, and the one time he got away from Botman, he was there to get that fantastic tackle. To put the ball out. Was a hell of a recovery tackle by Shaw to help his centre-back partner out. I think the one thing that really, really stood out to me with that second half of it was when Rodri got dispossessed and we just didn't make the most of that chances. When you go to the Etihad, you've got to make the most of every single chance that you get. And I think it was one of those ones where Wilson's just got that much time, he just didn't know what to do. And it was... rather than do something, he didn't really do anything. And then obviously Man City got the ball back. You know, if you go back to last season's game as well, there was the Wilson missed a sitter as well. Joe Linton missed the ball. It pretty much was to an open goal. These are the things that we tend to do when we go to the Etihad. We tend to create the chances, but don't put them away. But when you go there, you've got to take these chances. I think there was a couple of times on things that we've discussed before down the right-hand side where sometimes it can look predictable, the build-up play between Miggy and Trips, and as though the opposition are starting to work it out. But there was a couple of times yesterday where Miggy really should have let the ball go, and then he cut back inside and lost the ball. I just thought, you know, his work rate was fantastic as normal, but I thought his decision-making yesterday was poor. When we were in the attacking third. That's what really suffered. I mean, obviously, Isak felt sorry for himself. He seemed a bit isolated when he was on yesterday. He didn't really have much help around him. If that's because of the way that obviously the team set up in the first half, to be a bit more compact and stuff like that. And it's one of those ones that's like, be it in the second half sort of thing. And to be fair, we were still in the game in the second half, and we could have come away with something. And then obviously you would turn on and say, well, his game plan worked. It's if you get a point at the Etihad and stuff like that, something we haven't done for a long time. So it's just one of those things. It's a narrow defeat at the Etihad, as I said. On to next week, and we've got a Liverpool coming to St James's, where I think they're there for the taking. So there's plenty of positives to take from the game yesterday. Just the result wasn't one of them.
Yeah, no, totally agree, Richie. Chris, I see you're going a bit invisible there, like Richie's ghost, from time to time. But we'll go to you next. Did you ever give up hope? Did you still think we were still in it up until the final few minutes in the game?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that was the good thing. Whenever you're only 1-0 down, you've always got a chance. And in the last 10-15 minutes, it was literally end to end, wasn't it? Like City go on the attack, and then we get the ball, and then we try and go on the attack. And it was kind of that point. It was at that point in, as I say, the last 10-15 minutes where I wouldn't have minded losing 2-0 as long as we went for it, because what's the point in trying to see out a 1-0 loss? And in fairness, we did try and break City down. So I was encouraged. I thought the second half performance was much better than the first, because we actually came out and were like, right, okay, we're 1-0 down. Come on, let's try and get back into this game, and we did. I just think it was just one of those days at the office where things just didn't quite click. Richie mentioned the fact that we were a little bit sloppy in possession. The decision making wasn't great. But let's not forget, lads. This is, I've just wrote it in the chat. This is arguably the best team in Europe. Champions League winners last season, won the treble. The fact that we've given them a decent game, and we saw the thing that most encouraged me yesterday was seeing Pep's reaction when they went 1-0 up, and then seeing Pep's reaction at the final whistle when they won, because he knew that was a massive 3 points for them. Especially after having the Super Cup through the week, to then play a very fit Eddie Howe Newcastle side. That was a massive 3 points for them. But doesn't that just show how far we've come? Because a couple of years ago, City would have just turned up and gone, right, is this going to be 4, 5, or 6? So that's the positive I'm taking from it. But no, a much improved second half for me, and I thought the subs were really good as well. The subs came on and they made a difference. Just to touch very briefly on that Callum Wilson point, the frustrating thing for me was, I've watched it back 2 or 3 times. Rather than go to the left, if he'd gone to the right, there was 2 runners right behind him.
Yeah,
and I think it would have been a lot. I think it would have been a lot different if he just decided to go to the right instead of the left. It might have been a different outcome. It might not have been, but yeah, again, going back to decision making, it was just as soon as he went out to the left, the move was dead.
I think if Isak was still in the pitch in that position, I think we'd see a different outcome, because we know that Isak's ability to take a man on is second to none. We saw umpteen times last season. He's already done it quite a few times this season already, where he's beaten his man easily. I think if it'd be Isak instead of Wilson in that one-on-one, I think we might have a different end result.
Yeah. I was just going to bring you in on the second half there, but just I suppose you could see in with Pep and the Man City squad, like it beating us at the Etihad for City kind of seemed to have mean more to them than the Super Cup during the week. You could tell it was a big win for them. They were worried about us, but I just get your thoughts as well on the second half, Pete.
Well, Chris made a point talking about the first half that you wanted is kind of to come out and be a little bit more expansive. I saw that in the second half, and that really kind of pleased me. We kind of had to, because we're 1-0 down. But I genuinely saw it that we were going to be compact and difficult to beat in the first half, and then in the second half with Man City, and this would have been at 0-0, Man City would have had to come at us. And then you bring on Harvey Barnes, you bring on Wilson, and you catch them on the break. Because we've seen that Brentford did that to them last season and absolutely destroyed them when the game unfolded the way it did. And that seemed to be the game plan, but we didn't. It didn't work out that way. But I loved how direct we were at the beginning of the second half. We went at them. Like Gordon was running at them, trying to get balls into the box, trying to create things. We controlled possession for long parts of that second half, which was really, really positive to see. But there was just one thing that was in my mind as that probably the second half of the second half was unfolding, and it kind of touches on what Richie said about the Callum Wilson chances, that I couldn't help but think that we kind of missed something by not starting Wilson and bringing on Isak later on. Because when you've got Isak fresh-faced, full of energy, running at the defence with the openings that we were given, I can't help but think that with the amount of space that Wilson had in that lap part, and this is no disrespect to Wilson, Alexander Isak was drowned out in the first half. He could not get in the game. It wasn't due to the lack of work rate, but the amount of openings that came in that second half of the second half, when he'd pretty much already been taken off or was really tired at that point, I think he could have really made a difference in that game. And going back to the point with Wilson, I have to say it was outstanding defending. It really, really was. Because the way he steps in to win the ball, nobody expects it, not even Wilson. He expects Gvardiol to back off, which is why he went left. Because I think he goes left to play Miggy in. If he goes right, he's running into Miggy, because him and Miggy are in the same spot. So he's literally passing the ball 2 yards, which Callum Wilson as a striker just isn't going to do. Whereas if he pulls out left, Miggy makes the run right and he slips Miggy in, he catches him and Miggy's in on goal. But I think the defending and the reading of the game to be able to stop Wilson early in his tracks, Botman did it 3 times in the game to Haaland, and it was outstanding defending because he reads the game so quickly and he reads it before anybody else. Haaland 3 times makes the run expecting it to be there, and Botman sees it and snaps it out. Gvardiol does that in the second half to Wilson, and I have to say that it was unlucky for Wilson. Partly maybe the wrong decision. Maybe if it had gone right, he'd have got in. But I can't not say that it was brilliant defending, because it really, really was. And it's just one of those things. It's one of those things. But it wasn't the only chance. We had opportunities. We had openings. I said it on Twitter last night after the game. The decision-making let the team down. In the final moments, and Eddie Howe said it in his presser after the game, the decision-making at crucial moments let the team down. And that's it. That's it. In terms of the in-game play, we were right in and amongst them. We were physical. We battled. We got in there. They had a little bit of possession or a lot of possession throughout the game. But in the second half, we also had a lot of possession and controlled the game. So you can look at it however you want. We were in there, in with a shout, right late up and on into the game. But in the crucial moments, we didn't make the difference. And that's a big learning curve. And partly something to look at potentially in the future.
Yep, you're right, Pete. I can't see. Well, if we did a poll between the 4 of us, who would have picked Wilson before ahead of Isak going into the game? But yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying overall. But let's go to first of all, if you're sitting there in the chat, make sure you hit that like button as well. That's it. Nice one, Chris. I presume it's Chris.
It's
Chris,
always
you love
me,
that
mate.
button. You always love that button. We'll get to the ratings, and we'll fly through these ratings as well. So first up, Nick Pope. I'm giving Nick Pope a 7. 7 out of 10. Higher or lower, anyone?
Nope. All good. Me.
7.
7 all round.
Totally agree.
Right, we move on. Trippier, play along in the chat as well. Trippier, calm head. I thought he had a good game. He really stuck it to Grealish as well. He stuck it to him. He enjoyed blocking off his crosses. I'm giving the Trippier a 9.
Lads, can I just give the defence a collective score?
If you want me, yeah.
It's really easy for me. I'm going to give the whole defence, an 8.5. I thought the whole defence were really, really good. Other than that one moment where kind of Burn gets caught out of position, I thought they were as good as what they could be at the Etihad. I was really impressed. That's
the The only thing I would add on to that, Pete, is I think that's fair. I was thinking when Daz was talking then when he started with Trippier, I think I would give everybody an 8 in the defence, but I would give Botman a 9. I personally thought Botman was outstanding yesterday, and it's no he's my man of the match, by the way. There's no it's no mean feat trying to mark someone like Haaland. And as Rich mentioned earlier on, I think there was one moment where Botman, there was two moments. There was one moment where he got past Botman and Shaw tidied up for him, which was great to see as a partnership. And then there was another time where Haaland got his shot away and Pope made the save with his feet. But other than those two moments, I thought Botman did outstanding against Haaland yesterday. And as I say, to do that against arguably the most feared striker in the world was brilliant. And it goes to show the confidence that the team have got in Botman, because there were so many occasions where Botman was one-on-one with Haaland and he just dealt with him. And I honestly, I thought Botman was absolutely outstanding yesterday. So he's my man of the match at 9 out of 10. But I agree, the rest were all 8. I thought Trippier played well. I thought Shaw played brilliant next to Botman. And Dan Burn, bar that mistake. Again, he's coming up against top draw opposition, and again he delivered. He didn't let anybody down. So that's where I stand with the defence.
Cool. Richie, do you want to go for individuals or collective?
You know what? I am literally going to back up what Chris has just said. For me, the defence were all 8, bar Botman, who was my man of the match as well, with a 9. I thought Botman was just outstanding yesterday. So it was pretty much word for word what Chris has just said. I'll come back on Tuesday.
Well, for me, it was Trippier. I give Trippier a 9, Char an 8, Botman a 9, and Byrne an 8. And I give him the same as you, Chris. I'm giving Botman man of the match as well for what he did on Haaland. Right, let's get to the midfield. Before we get to it, do you want to go individuals or collective for the midfield?
I'll just give mine collective.
Go.
Yeah, I give the midfield a 7 collectively. It was the weak part of our team, unfortunately. So disappointed in Joe Linton's performance. I really didn't think he was great. I thought he let the midfield down at times. Out of position, on the ball, just not what you expect of him. I hope it's an off day. Hope he's not injured. I hope he's back to his best against Liverpool. But it was a really kind of poor outing for him. Tonali and Bruno were good on the ball. Tonali a little bit better in his defensive responsibilities, but we just never really got going. And Foden tore us apart by exposing the gaps in the midfield. And as I mentioned to you guys before, the Arsenal game. I go back to the Arsenal game with Bruno Guimaraes and his recovery runs. It's what lets the team down when he plays as a number 6. But the amount of times that Tonali was running past him and going back and securing the ball was fantastic. So there were some good moments in there, but it was the kind of weak link in the midfield. So collectively, I'll give him a 7.
Yeah, Chris.
I marked Tonali as a 7, Joe Linton as a 6, and I didn't know whether I was being harsh or not. I was gonna give Bruno a 5. I thought Bruno out the 3 for me was. I feel harsh saying this on Bruno as well, because those lads have spoken about it for weeks, haven't we? He's not. That's not really his position. Sitting as the deep line player, I feel like he's frustrated there. I don't think he's got the legs to be able to do a job that a normal holding number 6 would do. I just feel like he's better suited in the number 8. Now, obviously, that's where Tonali's playing. How Eddie Howe fixes that, I don't know. But I thought Tonali was the best of the 3. No, do you know what? I'll say Tonali 7, and I'll go Bruno and Joe Linton 6, because there's not that much between them. Because Pete's right, Joe Linton didn't have a good game at all. And maybe 5 would be a touch harsh on Bruno. But I thought Tonali was the best of the 3.
Cool. Richie, get your thoughts on the midfield?
Pretty much the same as what Chris has just said again. I think Tonali was the better of the 3. I think what we've also got to remember is that's only the second time that midfield three have played together, and they're still going to need to learn a lot about each other, and to come up with against Aston Villa last week and pretty much tear their midfield apart last week, to come up against the world champions midfield. That's what you got to remember. These are, even though Kevin De Bruyne is still there, these are still technically the world club champions. These are the best club team in the world, and they've got backup. Foden doesn't play every single week, but yesterday he came in for De Bruyne and he tore us apart. He was outstanding. Foden yesterday. He was, you want to see him in that sort of role for England. He was just absolutely exceptional. If he's through balls with Haaland, where be on a bit more wave and play together a bit more, you could have seen one of those through balls being put away by Haaland. You never know. But I think that, as Peter, Joelinton was really, really off the ball yesterday. Just wasn't firing at all, and he's normal. There was times he was getting beaten on the ball. He seemed to be half a second slower. The thing about this thing about Bruno yesterday was, bear in mind there was a stat yet on live on the show that said he had covered the most ground than anyone on the pitch. But it's funny enough that the four people below him were all Man City players. Bear in mind we were the ones doing the chasing for especially a lot of the first half. But he was still the one that covered the most ground, and the rest of them was City after that. I think what really disappointed my Bruno was the chance where he had that chance at the edge of the box, and he had so much time. And for a player of his quality, to get the ball not even out of his feet really, and then he obviously had to take it, and then the shot. I hope your grandma takes this as your auntie, Chris. I think your grandma, after a few sherries on her 90th birthday yesterday at the party, could have hit that better than what Bruno did yesterday. It was just an absolute abysmal shot. For someone of his caliber, you should be testing the goalkeeper at least from there, not especially when there's
all goes under his feet.
That's what I'm saying. The first one, for someone of his quality, that ball should be out of your feet by a yard or two at least. And then obviously, but even then, I think even if the shots should still be a hell of a lot better than that. You shouldn't be dragging it that, but you should be testing the keeper. Because as I said, there was no defenders in the line. That you've literally only got Edison to beat, even though you're on the 18-yard box. But I thought the finish was appalling. I really let him down yesterday. Really, really let him down.
It's not the first time, Richie.
No, it's not.
On the edge of the box, he's hit shots like that, and he seems to hit them with the side of his foot. He doesn't put his laces through the ball when he shoots. So
you can always tell when he puts his laces through it. Look at the one against Villa last week where it just went where Martinez had to save it. Was that in the build up to Tonali's goal?
Yeah, it was. That's the late. Yeah, that's what you want to see from him. Sean Longstaff can do it. Joelinton can do it. Sandro Tonali can do it. I have no idea with that shot. Look, I'm going to take it in isolation. That it's just what it is, but it wasn't.
For me on the midfield, I'm giving Bruno a 7. I'm giving Tonali a 7, and I'm giving Joelinton a 6. And just on Bruno, because there's some stories out there about Bruno, but I don't believe any of them. And Bruno doesn't like barbecues anyway, so don't believe the stories. Right, let's go on to the attack, really. Collective, I'll go first here. Miggy. At times, I thought Miggy was great. At times, I thought he wrecked my head. I wanted to pull my hair out. There was times when I was calling for him to come off, and then he was our best player after that. So it would have been a poor choice to take him off. But altogether, I'm going to give him a 7. Then Gordon, the yellow card early, and then he could potentially have been sent off. He tried his best as well. I'm giving him a 7. Isaac was nullified what he can do. He didn't have his best day. So I gave him a 10 last week. I'm going to give him a 6 this week. But I think he'll be back to his fine best next week. That's just me on the attack. Pete.
I suppose it's better to do them individually. Miggy, I gave a 7.5. I thought tactically he was very good. He was what we needed in the team. he stretched their team at times in the first and second half, making the runnings in behind, and they did not like it whatsoever. But decision making lets him down. Decision making is the difference with Miggy, and it always has been. Nothing's changed. His decision making in the first half of last season was spot on, which is why he scored as many goals he did this season. It hasn't started great for him, and it wasn't great yesterday either. Isak, probably give a 7. It was a tough day at the office for him. A lot of it wasn't his fault. A lot of it was down to isolation and coming up against two very big, solid defenders who physically outfought him. That was the difference. They physically dominated him yesterday. But I don't hold anything against him. It just was one of those games. And Gordon, he was better in the second half. I needed him to be more direct in the first half when he gets the ball. Keeps cutting into his right onto his right hand side. I need him to be direct. I need him to go at his fullback, because that's what he's been bought for. He's been bought to be direct and to go at his fullback and to create problems that way, and he didn't do it enough. He took the easy ride out a lot of the time and cut inside and would play the inside ball, and then it just kind of came to nothing. The rest of it was just backing up Burn. So I'll probably give him, probably give him a 7.
Cool. Chris?
I think I would give... I think I'd give 6s across the board, but for different reasons. Like, you know, Miggy showed the work rate as he always does. But unfortunately, I do feel like we say that a hell of a lot about Miggy. And at times he's very, very frustrating. I think his decision-making at times yesterday was quite poor. And again, we've said this now for months and months and months, you know, that cutting in, when he cuts in because he wants to be on his left foot, I think especially against a team like City, it's just too easy. It's too easy for the opposition. I thought, you know, we were screaming out for someone like Jacob Murphy to come on yesterday and really start trying to get them balls into Alexander Isak. The reason I'm giving Alexander Isak a 6 is because I think it was through no fault of his own. I just don't think he could get into the game enough yesterday, and I felt sorry for him. I would have liked to have seen him on the ball a lot more, but I think the midfield was struggling to really get him involved. I saw him dropping very deep at times because you could see he was getting frustrated because he was a little bit isolated out there. And with Gordon, I completely agree with Pete. I think there was times where I would have liked to have just seen him go. I kept shouting at the screen yesterday, run at him, just run at him, because that's what we want him to do. And it's as if he's a little bit, I wouldn't say scared to, but he's a bit worried about losing the ball. Maybe that's a confidence thing, I don't know. But I just wish that, you know, he used that pace that he's got, you know, get to the byline, make the pull, because even by doing that and then cutting it back, he's pulling defenders out of position. That's what we need. And I hate to say it, and I never thought I would say this so early, but I thought Barnes did much better when he came on. And in my head now, I'm thinking, you know, does Eddie Howe start Barnes against Liverpool? I don't know. That's not to say that Gordon had a bad game. Harvey Barnes is far more direct. And even when he came on, the little intricate 1-2s, he's always wanting to get in behind, get into those places where the defenders don't want him to be. I feel with Gordon, he's just kind of sitting back a little bit and waiting for the space. And sometimes you've got to create that space yourself. You've got to drag people out. You've got to run at people, force them to make decisions. And I just don't think he's doing that at the minute.
Chris, do you think with Gordon, it was a little bit about who he was up against, sort of in his head?
With it being Walker.
Yeah, because I think you've made a really good point. And I was the same as you. I was screaming at the TV, go at him.
Go at him. Yeah.
You were saying exactly the same. And it's like, he was apparently recorded, it said on the commentary, is the fastest player of last weekend. Do you think the fact that Walker's rapid himself is in the back of his mind as to why he didn't do that? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Do you know what? I think it's a good point, and not forgetting Pete, Walker is equally fast, not as fast, but he's very quick. But Walker physically is bigger. And is Anthony Gordon thinking, do you know what? If I try and run past him, he's going to come up to me and he's just gonna brush me aside. So I wonder whether there's a little bit of hesitation for him, and he's hoping that Walker commits, which then means he can dart round him, or that he can just play the pass and then look to get in the space. But I just wanted him to commit Walker because I thought, Walker's what, 32, 33, and yes, he's quick, but Anthony Gordon's quicker, and he could have caused him more problems. And I just found myself thinking, is there something in his head getting at him, and he's thinking, oh, I don't want to lose the ball because I don't want Eddie Howe to take me off, and I don't want the fans to get on me back. It was as if he just felt maybe you're right, Pete. Maybe it was an inferiority thing where he thought, I'm not going to be able to get past him, or Walker's just going to shove me off the ball. Maybe he does need to beef himself up a little bit. I don't know.
I guess in summary, though, we have come along. We've come a long way, but we still have a bit to go. We're not there at all yet, but we are building, and we're buying young talent as well. So it's only a matter of time before we eventually get to that level. I know they'll grow as well, but we'll year on year. This game was away from home. There'll be a different proposition when they come to St. James's Park as well. Richard, do you want to say something there?
Just if you go along with the score that the lad said, I think I agree score wise with what Chris said. I think you're probably looking sixes across the board, and not all for very different reasons. I thought, I would give Miggy a higher mark for his off the ball work. His defensive work rate and for the press and stuff like that as normal. But I thought he was abysmal with his, as I touched on earlier on. I thought his decision making in the final third yesterday was appalling. I really, really do. And it's, I was thinking the same. I was keeping up with. I didn't comment in the chat yesterday when I was watching the match, but I agreed with what you said, Daz, when you were saying you were frustrated as hell with him. And then obviously, then afterwards you were good. Oh, he's doing all right now, sort of thing. So, but to be fair, if he might have made way for Barnes if Gordon hadn't been on the yellow card, because I think Gordon played well, and he was. That's what I think when he got that debatable second yellow when they were talking about, and you thought, oh, the dying for VAR to go upstairs to look at it, and you know what I mean. And it was, I think that forced Eddie Howe's hand to bring him off just to save him for next week, because he's going to be he's going to be on fire next week. That's how he's going to next week against Liverpool, because for him that'll always be a derby for him, no matter what. Because obviously, growing up at Everton and stuff like that, and coming through and being used to that atmosphere, he's going to want to put a performance on next week against Liverpool, especially St James's. But yeah, I would have probably took Miggy off and switched Gordon over to the right. Hadn't that been the case about the Eddie Howe having the force hand. There's been a bit of debate in the chat about Harvey Barnes. We talk about this decision making of Miggy. You look at the assists and goal contribution from Barnes over the last few seasons in the Premier. And I think that's a lot down to his decision making. He knows when to put the ball in for a teammate. He knows when's the right time to shoot. You look how fantastic he was when he came against Villa last week. He could have had 2 assists for Wilson, and obviously he got the goal as well. And that was in the space of 26, 27 minutes last week. So for me, that's what you're upgrading. And we discussed so much when we were talking about, and obviously I hate bringing the guy back up, Alan Sam Maxwell. It was that end product. You've upgraded that department with Harvey Barnes. You've now got that end product there. And I think that's what we're still needing. I think if Miggy hadn't had the season he had last year, I think he'd have been one of the first positions that were upgraded this summer. I think he's being given a stay of execution sort of thing, because I still think it's an area of the pitch which we could and need to improve on. Whether, obviously if it's something we may do, I think possibly the news that came out yesterday might have derailed any potential shocks in the next couple of weeks. But
what news, Richie? What news is that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know because I didn't watch it, but apparently it was all over Twitter. So make of it what you will.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I just think it's still somewhere that needs to be improved. And the other thing I actually wanted to bring in as a question, obviously I know we've just finished the ratings now. When Shaw went down yesterday in that first minute, lads, who was thinking, shit, we need to get the checkbook out straight away?
Yeah, I said that in the chat. I thought, now's the time. If he's going to be coming off, and we needed a replacement.
And I think that's the issue what all of the fan base have got, because everyone can see it as a glaring area to upgrade, but it doesn't seem to be the case with the management or whatever's going on. Obviously, they know the fans better than we do. They know what's planned going forward for the next 4 windows potentially, because obviously they do the scouting in advance and stuff like that. Well, there might be still another upgrade coming. We don't know. But I knew as soon as he went down that first 15 seconds yesterday, and our Chris said to me, he went, "Oh no, that means Lascelles come on." And to be fair, I did put my hands up and I said, "Look," I says Lascelles played twice last year, Liverpool and Man City, both away from home, and he played well in both of them. I said we don't see him as much as we used to, because obviously we've improved in that department. But he's come a long way as a defender under Eddie Howe. But the issue is, you've got nobody behind Lascelles after that. And that obviously when Shaw went down, that's what everyone was thinking. No, you still need to improve there.
Can I just add to that, because I think it's a good point about Shaw. And I was thinking it, and I didn't say it earlier, but you mentioned it now. And I thought the absolute opposite. I looked at Shaw. Okay, injury aside, I looked at Shaw and the way he played. And I thought the way he played last night was outstanding. I thought he was brilliant. That's probably one of the best I've seen him play, even after that injury. And it made me think to myself, that's why they haven't pulled the trigger. Because if you're going to replace Fabian Shaw, you're going to replace him with a Sven Botman. And with a Sven Botman, you're not going to get in the next 2 weeks of the window. You're just not. The season's already started. No team are going to let a Sven Botman type signing go. Certainly not very easily. And if you are, you have to pay a lot of money for him. And that kind of solidified my thinking, is that ideally, yes, we'd love to get another right-sided centre-back in. We need one, as you've said. But we've got Jamal Lascelles. And I think that's probably why Eddie Howe bigged him up when we were over in the US, because I think he sees him as a backup for this season. I think Lascelles' contract runs out at the end of this season, if I'm right in thinking. And it's the perfect time for the transition. So we may struggle. We may lose Shaw. Lascelles may get minutes this season. But I think they want to replace Shaw with an absolute first top-tier level signing. Yeah. And that can only be done in the summer. And that was just my overriding thinking about Fabian Shaw in that situation. Could be wrong. They could put it out this week, and I'm absolutely wrong, and I'll be fine with that. But I just thought they feel that Shaw can go another year as the main first choice right centre back to Botman. And I'm not being funny. Those two together just click. They've got such a great understanding, both superb on the ball, have understandings of covering each other at various different times. Last night proved it. And I just think it's going to take something big to dislodge Fabian Shaw. And that's why I think they'll wait until next summer and do it properly. But that was just kind of my thoughts on that one.
Could well be the case, Pete. And I get, for me, I'm thinking that I can't see anyone else coming else apart from Hall, who's yet to be announced. But he was at the game yesterday, Eddie, if you're wondering. Unless we sell someone, I don't think we'll bring in anyone else as a surprise for us. Right, let's move away from the game.
Not just that, though, Daz. The thinking I was thinking, just while we're on that point, was, obviously, the information that came out yesterday because of the documentary, that was the interesting, and we touched on it in our chat yesterday. That episode was meant to be aired on the 1st of September. On the 1st of September. So you've got to look at that time of that release. The transfer window could have been so different for us for the next few weeks, because the stuff that's come out, that's FFP related as well. And obviously now it's general knowledge. It's not just knowledge within the club.
Yeah, another way of looking at it. I don't know though. Just comparing what Man City are taking in compared to us, because we played Man City obviously, and this is a reaction show. But you can see shirt sponsor, we're on half of what they're getting. Kit supplier, that'll change next season. But they're on 55 from Puma, we're on 5 from Story. Noon, we've on 7.5 compared to 20 from them. The sleeve sponsor, training kit sponsor, we don't even have one. Maybe something will happen on the first, I don't know. Then stadium naming rights and canvas naming rights. We don't have a canvas. But yeah, there's a lot to be done there, and that's why Newcastle are bringing in the best of the best to get us to that stage, and then we can fight them on an even keel, let's say. But that's it for really the review. Lads, do you have any questions that we want to go to the chat, or any comments anyone want to bring up, Anthony?
Derek Sharp says Everton look bad.
We agree. I agree.
Yeah,
they do.
In the family household, what was the reaction to that result today?
They were gone after 50 minutes. Straight up the stairs. Callum went to go and play on his Xbox. That was it. Done.
Oh.
So yeah, he's not impressed. Not impressed at all. But I to be honest, that was my banker at the weekend. I knew Villa would smash Everton, because after what happened with us last week, and then Villa first game at home in the Premier League, and Everton are going to struggle this season. It's a fact. And Villa were just, it was like men versus boys. Villa were all over them. So yeah, Villa are all excited now. Villa Watch has been on Twitter. He's been giving it loads. And then some people were saying, well, if Villa we beat Villa 5-1 and Villa beat Everton 4-0, they were like, well, we should beat Everton 9-1. Well, we'll have to see, I suppose.
It always works out like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. This is a good one for Pete, and this has been directed at Pete from Geordie Toon for Life, and I think Pete touched on this earlier, actually. Pete, do you think it was very much like the Arsenal game away last season?
Yeah, I do. I think the game plan was very much the same. It was to control, make it compact, and then as they come on to you in the second half, you've got the players that can get in and behind and cause them problems. And it didn't go that way against Arsenal. They came out the blocks that were very, very difficult. We came into the game first half, created a couple of chances. Joe Linton should have scored, but then it was very much like backs to the wall in the second half. They didn't give us that moment to go and counterattack them, Arsenal, in January. But yeah, the game went very different, but I think the game plan from Eddie Howe was very much the same. We're not. I don't think we're there yet in terms of being able to go there and dominate and create many chances. They're the best team out there. They're the best team around right now. They're serial winners, and doesn't matter what players are on the pitch, it's going to be very, very difficult, and that's exactly what we found. But yeah, I do agree. I do think it was the same setup.
And then the last question, which I'll ask to you all, and we've spoken about this in numerous shows, and I suppose we can leave it on this. Stevie T asks, Stevie T78, I think because we play without a specialist number 6, we find it difficult to pick up opposition in the number 10 positions, e.g. Foden. Do you think we need a plan to address this? And I suppose what we can ask, or what I can ask you all is, do you think has yesterday's game told you anything that you didn't already know? Do you think Eddie Howe's looking at it and thinking, do you know what? Maybe we are still shy of a number 6. I don't know. What do you boys think? Daz, you start, mate.
Yeah, look, that was one of the positions that we said left back in number 6, but then we brought in Tonali, and that's where it changed everything for us, really. So I don't think they're going to address it now. I think unless we sell anyone, I can't see anyone else coming in. That would be the catalyst for that. But no, I don't think Eddie Howe wants to play out the number 6, or he wants to have that 6-8 with Tonali and Bruno swapping, and it just as you lads have mentioned it's one of their second game playing together. I think they might have played together in the pre-season as well, but very, very light. And it's just getting used to each other's play and how it's going to work best, and how Bruno can be released as well as Tonali being released to move forward a bit. But yeah, I can't see another number 6 coming, number 6 come to us this summer now.
Pete, based on what you were saying earlier, you said that you think Shaw's going to be fine for this season, and I do tend to agree with you, especially if he continues to perform as he did yesterday. Let's say, for the argument's sake, we love devil's advocate on here. Let's say Matty Targett gets sold, Jeff Hendrick goes, Isaac Hayden goes, Ryan Fraser goes, and say we've got a little bit of money in the kitty. Do you think they would prioritise number 6 over a right centre back at the minute?
No, because of the amount of centre midfielders we have. But I'm going to say one thing: Man City have Rodri, best in the world.
It was unbelievable.
He's class.
Liverpool up until last season had Fabinho. You go back to the top level teams. Real Madrid up until recently had Casemiro. Barcelona had Busquets. All of the top level teams that are successful, not just domestically but in Europe, have a specialized number 6. And at some point, we are going to need one, because in games like that, a number 6 breaks up the play, makes it difficult, stops Foden in his tracks. Why? Because the pockets of space that Foden and Alvarez exploited are the pockets of space that are number 6 stop those teams playing. As simple as that. So, do I think we'll get one this season? I don't, but I think we will. And maybe, with fingers crossed, an influx of cash coming through, maybe in the summer, will allow us. Spoilers. An influx of cash next season will not only allow us to strengthen right centre back, but also bring in a specialist number 6, because I think if we're going to evolve as a team, we're going to need one. Now, what that means to selections with the likes of Bruno, Tonali, Joe Linton, Willock, Longstaff, they can't all play. It's going to make it very, very different. And I've got to be honest, one may have to go.
I think that's a fair assumption, Rich. Just to end on that. I don't know whether you saw the Chelsea-West Ham game earlier, but Caicedo didn't have the best of debuts. I've got to be honest.
I watched the first half. I didn't watch the second half. But obviously, you've got to when you start to bring that amount of people in, it's going to take a lot of time to bed in. Whether obviously Caicedo is a Premier League established player, but you've got to. See, for me, even with like Enzo Fernandez, and then obviously looking at Lavia as being the extra one, it's a weird midfield 3 for that for me. I don't know. All I can think is he wants to play the double pivot of Lavia and Caicedo and move Enzo Fernandez further forward, but still doesn't work. That does not work for me as a midfield 3. I think to me they're all too defensive. There isn't someone who's got that creative spark out of the 3 on that one. But going back to us, I think the only one who's obviously it's weird. Bear in mind he's obviously an attacker. For me, the natural number 6 of who started yesterday is Joe Linton. For me, I just think he breaks up play so well, and it would be better for me if he was the one that sat deeper than Bruno and Tonali. Let them do the running. He's fantastic. He covers ground well as well. But I would look at it as being, flank to flank side, that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? I think he would be just that ball breaker in the middle, and I just think he would be fantastic to sit there. The only other one that could do the job in the Newcastle squad at this moment in time, which is why I think a lot of people are still screaming for Newcastle to be going for a CDM, is Lewis Miley. And I think he would do a fantastic job there. He just obviously hasn't got that experience in the squad. And to be fair, and I think we'd probably all agree with this, the fact that he hasn't made the last 2 match day squads, it looks like he's going to be going out on loan to get first team experience, because once he's got that, he's going to be exceptional. But that's the thing, we haven't got an out and out defensive midfielder really. Well, you've got Isaac Hayden, but to be fair, he's never going to be playing in the squad again. Do you know what I mean? He's never going to probably wear the black and white shirt again. So I agree with Pete. I still think he said that all the best teams have a recognised number 6, and whether we play with one or not, I think we're gonna have to bite the bullet and do it, because it's such a necessity, especially in a 3-man midfield.
Great to have Jack Grealish and Sandro Tonali in the chat tonight, though.
Sandro's comment before had me giggling, lads. I'm sorry, like Pete was talking, and then I'll just burst out laughing. So I apologise, Pete. It wasn't at your comment; it was at Sandro's comment that came on the.
Stick it up on screen.
I don't know whether anyone saw it or not, but I started, Chris. Yeah.
For anyone at Spotify, we'll read it out. Sorry, I missed the start, lads. Some bastards set me down spoons again. So yes, and no one's admitting to that either. No one, or Eddie Howe is not putting anyone under the bus for that one. But nice one. Any other comments or questions, lads? Before we round it up?
I think that's pretty much it, mate. Pretty much it. But on the whole, I think, what, we come up against quality opposition yesterday, didn't we, lads? And let's be honest, we're not going to come up against that every week. And the fact that we give ourselves, a good showing, we went at our best. But lots of positives to take from me. And the big game for me now is next Sunday. Got to beat them next Sunday. Got to.
Exactly. Just a reminder to people.
Sorry, Daz. Hardest away game out the window. Second game in the season. You've got people on social media, non-Newcastle fans, that are saying Newcastle were humbled. They're at the title race. If you looked on YouTube, you'll see those videos that are just talking absolute nonsense. That just clearly don't like Newcastle. Just ignore them for the week, because we'll be ready by Sunday. We'll be ready. It's
the absolute perfect time. Do you know what? If you look at last season when we played them away, it was around the time we were preparing for the Carabao Cup and stuff like that, and we were going through a real bad rut at the time. At that, our performances were appalling. And if you get a performance like that mid-season, it can knock you off your tracks going forward. I would rather, as Pete says, it is the hardest away game in the Premier League. Get it done first. You've got a fantastic home performance from last week to go in, and you've got a fantastic opportunity at home next week as well, to a team who are going through transition as well, and midfield wise don't look great. The one of the new guys who's come into that role suspended next week as well. The thing is, though, what it seems to be, and I don't know what you think, they've got too many. I think that they're too attacking based, Liverpool, and I think we can really, really hurt them next week. When you've got like wingers playing in midfield, it's just your setup's all wrong. I'm sorry, I
agree. Playing Gakpo and Szoboszlai centre midfield. If we've got Bruno, J7, and Tonali at it, I think we can cause them all kinds of problems. Really, really do.
Liverpool are not the Liverpool of old.
No,
they will give you chances. They will give you chances in games, and at St James's Park, that's all we need.
Right, lads, we'll bring it to a close. I'll leave you with one other message. Bruno does not barbecue, and especially in Barcelona. Just remember that. Good night, everyone. How'd you like that?
Drink it like me, then tell me if you like that.